Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our new year of episodes here at the Dorm Room Collective. This is a very special episode. We're all cozy in our homes with our blankets on a snow day. This is the sleepover edition. I'm Abby. We're about to review the Princess Diaries movies, and I will say that my favorite of the two movies is the first one, the original Princess Diaries.
Hi, I'm Julia McCarski. I'm a junior theater BA major with a screenwriting minor. And contrary to popular opinion, my favorite Princess Diaries movie is Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and my favorite Princess Diaries movie is also the first one.
And we'll perhaps get into some arguments about things. But to start off, we're going to start talking about the first movie. I mean, so these are movies that we've seen a bunch of times. It's not like we're watching this for the first time, but maybe revisiting it from our childhood. For me, what speaks to me about it is just it's kind of got this like quirkiness to it. Like she lives in a refurbished firehouse in San Francisco. Her mom's like an artist, and she's to explain, Mia, played by Anne Hathaway, is an awkward teenager. She's like 15, 16, and she lives in San Francisco. She goes to Grove High School, and about 15 minutes into the movie, she finds out that she's a princess. This was previously unknown information. Julie Andrews, as her grandmother, shows up and tells her. And what I like about it is the whole thing is that she's awkward. She's got big, frizzy, curly hair, very much like mine. She wears glasses. She's got these thick eyebrows, and she's pretty like all right with herself. She's just like shy, can't really publicly speak, doesn't have a lot of friends. And she's just kind of a fun character, and that gets to be our princess because she does transform later on. But even when she transforms, like physically, and like she learns how to like be a princess, she's still awkward and funny and quirky, and I think that that's like a fun thing about her character, and it just really speaks to me personally. That's what I like about it. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, for me, I really like the first one because it feels like a time capsule. It's just so rooted in like I'm sure we'll get into it, but like the soundtrack and the score, it's just screams like early 2000s, and their outfits and like the music and like it's just the vibes. It's just such a time capsule, and it just brings a lot of joy when I watch the first one.
Kind of going off of what Julia said, I really like this. I think a lot of it is rooted in nostalgia because this was one of my favorite movies when I was little. I remember watching it on Disney Channel. I watched it so much on Disney Channel that when I was watching it on Disney Plus, I knew where the commercials would be. Julie Andrews would say something, I would be like, oh, that's where they cut to commercial. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. And it's just because I watched it so much when I was on TV. So I think a lot of it's rooted in nostalgia, but also as an adult rewatching, because I hadn't watched these movies in a while. I think I kind of just liked how everything worked, like the soundtrack, like Julia mentioned, in the score, but also like the script is super clever. And I appreciate a lot more of the jokes now as an adult than I did when I was younger. There were some parts that like made me laugh out loud because I forgot that that's something that they said. And so I just, and the timing, like the comedic timing is great. And it's one of Anne Hathaway's first movies, and it's cool to see how much she's grown as an actress. And so I just really love this. It's so nostalgic and one of my favorites, like to watch. It's like a comfort movie, I guess. So
Yeah. The music is really good. The like songs that they put in there, and then John Debney's score is very present. And like we'll get into it maybe not being as present in the second one, but I just sorry, Julia. I really like music. That's something I look for in a movie. And I think that the score piece, the Princess Diary waltz, which is what is played at the end when they're dancing and Michael appears. Michael is her love interest. It's been on my Spotify top 100 for the past 3 years.
As it should be. As it should be.
But yeah, did you guys write quotes down when you were watching it? Because I wrote some down. I think this would be a good time to read it after you've mentioned the screenplay, Sarah. If you guys are good with that, I've got some. Okay, and so I knew that this was a line. This is my favorite line. Mia at the very beginning of the film said, like, walks up to her best friend Lily and says, "Somebody sat on me again." And it's just like, because you watch someone sit on her the like scene before, and then some of the like ad libs that whoever the background actors and the extras are doing are very funny. And so like when Mia is standing up in front of the class and like trying to give a speech, someone's like, "What a frizz ball."
I noticed that too.
And this is a lot. So she works at a rock climbing gym, and it's only like in one scene, but she's like with the other people that work there, like kind of in the background, their manager's like, "Hey, Kristen, like Mr. Walsh, his ropes are tied." And then you hear as it cuts to something else, but you hear in the background, "Mr. Walsh, stop twisting, you'll strangle yourself." Which I don't know if it's scripted, but that's very funny.
There's also the one at the beach party where they're like, over here, it's like, my dad thinks I'm a princess when they're talking to the bride.
Yes. Yes. What else did I write down? It's not appropriate for royalty to jingle, which is when they're going to the Penny Arcade. I'll maybe put it in. There's a picture of me doing the arm thing.
Julie Andrews says, this reminds me of Rupert's cousin from Liechtenstein, which is just such a weird thing to say. That's like kind of like an offbeat type of, like, you don't notice it if you're not listening for it. But I really like the quote that Sandra Oh, Miss Gupta says, where they're reenact it.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so imagine I'm holding some pom-poms, right? And Mia hits a baseball into the cheerleaders, and she comes, she goes, "Come on, girls, it's a ball, not a snake. Back in formation." And that was one of my favorite, because I love Sandra Oh's character in this. She's so like, I don't know, very vice principal-y, and I thought it was hilarious that she's like, why is she with the cheerleaders? Why are they watching? Like, during that part where they're playing softball at PE, like all of Mia's teachers are there. Like, not only is the gym teacher there, but like the first base coach is her speech and debate teacher. Like, why?
Can I recreate my favorite Sandra Oh quote from the movie? Okay, let me get into it.
Yeah.
The queen is coming.
She goes, Gupta. The queen is coming. Grove High School.
So I think Houston produced both of them. They're both directed by Gary Marshall. I cannot remember who the screenplay is by in the first one.
One of the writers for the first movie was Meg Cabot, who wrote the books.
The books are supposedly a lot different than the movies. Like, her dad is not dead in the first book. And Julie Andrews' character Clarice is like super mean and doesn't like Mia at all and is not supportive or anything. So the relationship between a granddaughter and grandmother is something that's not super explored, especially in like kids media. I feel like the relationship between kids and grandparents need to be explored more, because we have a lot of relationship between kids and parents in media work. So I thought that was fun.
And I just love Julie Andrews. That's it. I just love Julie Andrews so much. And I'll get more into that when we talk about the second one, but she really is a queen.
Yeah. I think, and like this is shifting gears a bit, but we've also thought about how this movie takes place in San Francisco and it's shot on location. Like a lot of it is shot on location because there's so many scenes of them just in the street, like riding their scooters. I think it just really utilizes the city well. You can see a lot of different views. There's like one random shot where you can just see Alcatraz, but it's like very cool. So that my one of my favorite scenes is when she's driving the Stang. She's got like a 67 Mustang that's been like repaired and it's stick, and so she's trying to drive stick and she's 15 up a giant hill in San Francisco and ends up falling backwards into a trolley car, which is everyone no one was hurt. It's fine. That's just a fun scene because she pulls the emergency brake and it just comes out, so there's nothing she can do.
Well, earlier there's also that shot of the Stang on the Golden Gate Bridge,
Yes.
and it's just like that subtle humor that I didn't realize when I was younger, but like the person driving behind her goes around her because the Stang is so slow because it's such an old car, and like there's voiceover of the conversation that Mia and her grandmother are having. I don't know, perfect. Perfect lead up to the fact that her car is gonna die and then like run into a trolley, as you said.
Mm. And so this movie came out in 2001. The second one came out in 2004. And there's some like interesting tonal differences in what they do with these characters because as you mentioned, Sarah, like our protagonist is a young woman and then like her mentor is her grandmother, another woman. And so there could be some debate, and it's a children's movie, so like it is what it is. And it's kind of like a rom-com style coming of age. So the whole thing is that Mia is like awkward. She's taking princess lessons to like learn how to have like manners, and those are easy to show like how to tuck her ankles together while she's sitting. That's easy to show in a montage. I'm sure she's also learning about like diplomacy and things like that. But they do put a lot of emphasis on like her like looking polished and acting polished in the way that a princess should, which does kind of fall in line with the stereotypes of like how women should be. And there could be some debate whether like her learning to sit up straight or tuck her ankles or like wave and how to talk to people. I mean, I think that the learning how to talk with people and learning diplomacy certainly contributes to like her self-confidence. Her getting a makeover contributes to her self-confidence, and that's kind of how they show it in a positive way. But it's also like she changes her look to have like the she doesn't have the frizzy hair. I'm pretty sure she's wigged for Anne Hathaway is wigged and those are not her real eyebrows. And so she just looks like Anne Hathaway at a point when it gets straight and short, her hair, and they pluck her eyebrows. And so I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
Is that how your hair looks like when you flat iron it? Is it like look naturally straight and stuff? Because her hair after they like straighten it, like I feel like her hair, if it was naturally curly like that, there'd be a lot of time every
It's
morning
a
that
lot of time.
she's
When I watched it this last time, I was like, someone just needs to tell her, like, explain to her how to take care of her curls because they're just frizzy and bad, and that's the whole thing. I'm like, if someone gives her the right shampoo, the right conditioner, the right like styling products, she could have really nice, beautiful curly hair, and that's still like nice looking. But that's not the thing.
My thoughts about it is that, yeah, it can be seen as a kind of, is this really like feminist that they're kind of making her, because she's not really thrilled about changing her look. I mean, she likes it in the end, which is great, but she's not really thrilled about it in the first place. But I think that what she does is with the princess lessons and stuff, she ends up taking it and she makes it her own. She's not the perfect princess and she's not trying to be, and she's not she's unapologetic about how she's taking something that's supposed to be so prim and proper for women and she's making it her own, which I think is really cool.
I definitely agree with that because again, the thing that I like is even after she transforms, she still got these like weird characteristics. And the big thing is that like she ends up with the guy that's nice. And like at the end, when they are about to kiss in the beautiful garden, and Michael, her love interest, her best friend's brother, is like, Mio, like, why me? And she says, because you saw me when I was invisible, because it's from the beginning when she looks different, when she looks the way she does and is the way she is, like people are like, So you like her, right? And even like when she transforms, he's still into her, whereas like other people are only interested in her when she's a princess, when she like looks more traditionally attractive.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the feminist way that, like Julia said, how she comes into her own through her makeover. But if you look at it from the other way, and I don't really know fully how I feel about it because I could see it from both ways. But if you look at it from the other way, it maybe is telling young girls that you need to change your appearance in order to be seen as like a proper lady, like a true woman. You can't have glasses, which is a very early 2000s thing of it's like take off your glasses and you're beautiful. It's like it didn't age well because a lot of people now like glasses are like an accessory that people are like some people even wear them even when they don't need them to see as just like a fashion thing. And so it's just kind of funny how that has changed like the approach to that. But also, I don't know, it just could be giving the wrong message where it's like, yeah, you can't have curls because curls are seen as like undesirable, or you have to wear makeup because Mia is seen throughout the beginning before her makeover. She's not like wearing any makeup or anything like that, but then afterwards every scene she's in, she has like a little bit of eyeshadow or something like that. And it is noticeable enough that you notice it. It's like it's subtle. It's because she wants to look good all the time, which is great. If you wear makeup and you want to look good and feel good, that's great. But I think it just says a lot if she wasn't wearing any before and now she's always wearing like a little bit of mascara and she has to like straighten her hair and she has to wear contacts and stuff where it's like, I don't know, I feel like there's more to being a woman than like your appearance. But then again, she is a princess, so I mean, it's kind of different because it's what, her grandmother's like, this is how royalty should be. And so, you got to listen to your grandmother, the queen, I guess. But like Abby said, I mean, a lot of good comes out of it. Like she reads a lot of classic literature and learns like diplomacy and stuff like that. Yeah, I just think that it could be seen both ways of like empowering because it gives her the confidence to do things that she wasn't as willing to do before, like um, stand up for herself and stuff like that. But I feel like the lessons also contributed to that, not just her change in appearance. So
Yeah.
And I think that's an issue that's brought up a lot in early 2000s kind of teen rom-coms, that there's a lot of kind of themes like that. That's like, yeah, you don't need to wear glasses, wear contacts, or like, yeah, pluck your eyebrows. Now me and everyone else is wearing blue light glasses all the time. So it's definitely shows its era in those moments like that.
The thing for me that I've picked up the last couple of times watching it, like as an adult, is that her best friend Lily mentions to her about being a princess because she goes through this thing where she might renounce her title, but she ends up not doing it. And it's because she realizes that she can be a real voice for real change, and not a lot of teenagers get that. I think that that's really interesting. I was like, yeah, I mean, that is a good point. Like, and ultimately why she should do it. If a young person has a chance to like get a platform to help other people, like that's pretty cool if they're able to do it.
yeah, I agree. I think that another reason that was kind of lost on me as a kid as to why she decides to become a princess, that as an adult I kind of picked up on a little bit more, is the fact that she's the last living heir of the Rinaldis. And so if she gives up her title, it will go to a different family. And her family has had this position for hundreds of years. Um, and overall, I think that they're pretty well liked by the country and the people who live there. And so if she said no, I think Clarice says something like Genovia will cease to exist as we know it. Like, I think it says a lot that she chooses all these people that she's never, I mean, she found out a few weeks ago that she was like, she didn't even know where Genovia was probably before she was told that she was a princess, and she chooses the lives and she chooses a livelihood of the people of Genovia over her own goals that she had in life. And I think that that's huge, especially for a 15-year-old.
And
I'm
she's
not sure if I would have been able to
anyone
do that.
from Genovia. She's never been there.
Right.
And she
But
just
she forms this connection with her grandmother, and she sees all this good that she could do and how her grandmother has done so much good for the country. And she's like, if I'm taken under her wing, I think that I could do good. I will say is I've mentioned this to Abby and Julia before, but this movie convinced me to try mustard on a corn dog, and my life has been changed for the better ever since.
great scene.
My last thought on the Princess Diaries, the first one, is her neighbor, Mr. Robitussin.
The
Um,
Robitussin.
as a screenwriting minor, I felt a little personally victimized as I realized, oh, this is going to be my future, sitting on my lawn every day making comments about all the people that walk by.
But he won an Emmy.
And
He
then
says while he's writing, he goes, I can't believe I won an Emmy.
he writes soaps, so it was probably a daytime Emmy.
Yeah,
I
probably.
mean,
Which, I mean, better than we're doing right now. So it's like my neighbor, Mr. Advil. Like,
you know, Mrs. Tylenol, she's a couple blocks down. I think you'd really like her. You know her, you know my cousin, acetaminophen? She goes to school. She goes to school here. Yeah.
I will say the M&Ms on pizza is iconic.
It
The
is.
sorry with
I
the
had
M&Ms.
that on my phone case for like 3 years, that sticker. And like I say sorry all the time. And so it was kind of just a little thing, but it's because I love that movie a lot. Moving on, there is a movie, a little film called The Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement. This is the sequel. It came out in 2004. It is also produced by Whitney Houston, as we mentioned earlier. The screenplay is by Shonda Rhimes, and so they've got some more big names. They've got big name like actors and producers for both of them, but it's definitely noticeable in the second. I think that they get a bit more of a budget, and part of it is because the second movie takes place 5 years later when Mia is 21. She's just graduated college and she's going back to Genovia to live there like permanently, because she's preparing to become a queen. So it all takes place in Genovia. And so something that I've definitely noticed with the first versus the second, the first one, they are just filming on location in San Francisco, whereas in the second movie, they're just in Genovia the entire time, like at the palace most of the time. And so they basically had to build a palace, build a country where that takes place. And so you can definitely tell that there's an upgrade in how much money they have. And we can talk about how that impacts what it is, but Julia, I'll let you take it away because this is your favorite. So
Yes, this is my favorite of the two. I think I would agree with both of you, which we're gonna get into. I agree that I think the first one as a movie is better. However, the second one is just my personal favorite. This was the one that like I watched the most as a kid was the second one. Um, like the night before I left for college freshman year, my mom and I watched both Princess Diaries movies, and the second one it's the second one's just the one that we always watch the most. Anytime the second one was on, we would watch it on TV, even though we owned it on DVD. So yeah, the second one is my personal favorite. It just holds a lot. I have a lot more memories connected to the second one than the first one. So purely for nostalgic factor, I love the second one.
Rewatching it now as an adult, I try to separate my nostalgia from the movies and just try to watch them purely as the films they are. And I did like certain filmmaking aspects of this first one a lot more than the second one. Like Abby said, the first one's pretty much shot on location, so it showcases San Francisco and stuff like that, and they work it into the story. But the second one, it's kind of obvious to me that it just looks fake because it is, because they built like a country for the movie. So I enjoyed a lot of the cinematography and visual storytelling of the first one a lot more. I was kind of talking about this before we started filming, but like the first one will have cutaway shots to things in the environment, like when Mia first finds out that she's a princess and she's kind of mad at her mom for keeping this a secret from her for 15 years. She like puts in her retainer and there's a voiceover of her mom explaining herself, and Mia knocks the retainer case into the sink. And I just think that that says so much about her character in just that, like, those few seconds of like a visual shot. She's clumsy, it doesn't show her putting it back up, so maybe she's like, whatever, I'll just keep it there. So it just says a lot about her character. I feel like the shots were just kind of stagnant in a way. And then also, we mentioned this before, but the score is almost absent completely from the second one. I mean, there's a new score with new music to replace it, but I could probably hum a few songs from the first one just like that are ingrained in my head because the score was just so great. Like Abby says, it's in our top 100 on Spotify. But the second one, I mean, the score was there, but I couldn't recall any of it. It's not like it kind of improved the scenes for me or anything. And I feel like the soundtrack also in the first one, we talked about how iconic the early 2000s, like poppy music that's in there. And the second one, it does have Breakaway by Kelly Clarkson, which is great. But as Abby said, 2001, it's basically still the 90s. 2004, we're into the 2000s, and it is kind of obvious to me that this is more a product of the 2000s than like the late 90s. And so I didn't enjoy the soundtrack as much either.
I will say, I think what people like about this movie, and like we'll have another discussion about feminism, I'm sure. But Chris Pine. We'll get to the women in a second. We'll get to the women in a second. Let's talk about the men.
Let's talk about the men.
Let's go for it. Chris Pine. This is one of his first movies. He's got a baby face.
He's one of the more underrated Chris's, and I feel like he deserves more credit, honestly.
He's my favorite.
He is a superior Chris. I agree.
Sweep me off my feet, please. Please. He's very cute and very charming. Him just being him and incorporating it into his character. And also like the fact that he loves someone as like dorky as Mia.
And he's also described as a womanizer in the movie. So I think that even means even more to like my 10-year-old self, who was like, he could have all the women in the world, and he picks this dorky. I mean, obviously she looks like Anne Hathaway, so probably not a very hard decision.
And
but
she's princess. Yeah.
Right. So probably adds to it. But I mean, when you're 10 and you're not thinking too hard about things, it's like, I look at this Prince Charming type of thing.
I think that I really like how he does have like a character arc. Princess Diaries 2 invented the enemies to lovers trope. Because Nicholas and Mia obviously don't get along at first because he's in conspiracy with his uncle to try and steal the crown. So Nicholas will be the ruler. But I really love how the more Nicholas gets to know Mia, he really values her and sees her as the correct ruler and is really inspired by her kindness and her passion for other people, that he steps down and is like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I think Mia should be the right ruler. And he falls in love with her for who she is, not because she's a princess. So I feel like that ending scene right before the coronation, when she's in the throne room and he comes down and he's like, I would like the queen to know that I am in love with her. I feel like it's very earned, and I just feel it's such a cute and romantic moment between the two.
And like that's all great. That's so great. That scene by the lake. First of all, he throws rocks at her window and she climbs out. How romantic, but it's like she falls and like struggles and is very clumsy getting down, which is awesome. And then they sneak out and they go and like dance by the lake. And the song that's playing is this awesome cover of Love Me Tender. And it's like romance. That's romance.
Yeah, that's one of the best parts of the movie for
That's my favorite
sure.
part of the movie. I just like a nice lake that's got a little like lake mist on it, and it's like they're dancing. It's cute. It's sweet.
Yeah, I think 2 of my notes for this was one of them was just Chris Pine all caps, and the other one was Anne Hathaway all caps. So
I think another notable thing about this movie, and is we had the feminist discussion about the first one, and now we'll have it about the second one, which is like we think of it as like being pretty feminist. Genovia has a law that says she cannot become queen unless she's married, like an unmarried woman can't be queen. Her grandmother is unmarried and has been queen, but whatever. And so there's a meeting with Parliament, and they are like, oh, she has to get married. And I will say, Parliament is supposed to be old white men, like that's like the thing. And it's very clear. And then at the end there is a clip in the credits of all these women walking into Parliament, and they're handing them their powdered wigs that are meant for men, but that's true equality.
And
um
some women of color as
yeah,
well. There's a couple women of color.
that's like the
there's
thing.
like a man of color in the line too, like in the back.
I just really hope they weren't thinking they were making huge political waves. I hope they don't think that they were really making a statement, but for what it is, they gave it a shot.
Like, yes, it's a children's movie, but I feel like you can get a message across in different ways than shoving it down someone's throat. Because the second one, what'd you say?
I think overall the first one's just more subtle.
Yeah, I think the second one is just, it's very obvious what they're trying to do, and I don't know if they earn it because, like Abby said, how they have women of color and, people who aren't old white men in the parliament at the end, which I get that it's kind of like an after credit scene, but there was no build up to that or whatever. We just have to assume that Mia, like, made a change, but also like those people have to be elected. And also, why is Charlotte there? Because Charlotte,
She earned
I
it.
love Charlotte, but she's
runs
not.
the country. She runs the
She
country.
does.
She really
She
does.
does run the country, but I don't really believe she would leave her job to do that. She seems to love it too much, which is good for her. Good for her for being a career woman. I'll let it slide. I will say that when I was younger, I was mad that Chris Pine and Anne Hathaway, or Nicholas and Mia, don't end up getting married at the end, because I think when you're a little girl, you have this idea of like happy endings equal you're ending up with a significant other, that like you get married and that's a happy ending, because that's how a lot of movies are that are aimed at girls, are like it ends with the lead marrying the man of her dreams, which is great if that's how it works out for you, but it doesn't work out for everyone like that. And so I think when I saw this when I was little, I was like, why didn't they get married? That doesn't make any sense. Like, he wanted to be king and she loved him, so just get married. But now watching it as adults, it's like obvious why they don't, because they're making this statement that like you don't have to be married in order to be queen, you don't have to be married in order to be successful in life, which is great. I love that notion. But like I said, it's kind of heavy-handed because throughout it's like knocking this into you, oh, they don't get married. That's kind of course they don't get married.
I would really like to bring up another one of my favorite scenes, which is when they are all in the movie theater and they're looking at a PowerPoint slide of a bunch of eligible bachelors. The Princess Diaries 2 invented Tinder. They're just looking through these eligible men. I love how Prince William comes up and they're like, well, you can't marry him because he's in line for his own crown. And they're like, well, why is he in there to begin with? And they're like, duh, look at him. He's just pretty to look at.
This is him in 2020. In
2004.
2004, so he has hair to be.
Yeah, this was the good old days. The good old days. R.I.P. to his hair.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to his hair.
Whatever.
Abby, this is kind of off topic and you don't have to include this, but I thought it was so funny how much Nicholas's uncle mentions Machiavelli, and I just kept thinking about Baumann's class.
Yeah, no, so yes, I kept thinking about Rollins' class, and so when he's like, oh, you're named after Niccolo Machiavelli, and then he turns and there's just a portrait of him right there in their house.
And I was like, that same picture was in one of his slideshows, I guarantee.
For no reason. And
like, there's just a picture of Machiavelli. He just has this portrait of Machiavelli in his house in case Nicholas ever asks, who was I named after?
Yes. So
That's one of the things that I love about this movie though, is they just have so many random bits that absolutely do not need to be there, but I am so glad that they are in there. Like when they're talking about Mia wants to transform like one of the vacant palaces into another orphanage for the kids, and they have one actor playing a member of parliament and the same actor is playing his twin brother who's an architect, and they hate each other, and it's just the same guy who's just yelling at himself. Absolutely not needed, but I'm so glad that they kept it in. I also love the poor security guard in training, Lionel. All of the
Lionel!
bits with him are so funny.
I
Like
think
when he's like, the eagle is leaving, the eagle is leaving. It's like hush tones, hush tones.
like because some of the comic jokes are a little bit off or a little bit forced in this one, where again
Yeah.
the first one's a little bit more subtle. The stuff with Lionel is all pretty good. I like any of the bits with like palace security and just like the guards, because they just have to deal with so much shit. And the thing is, like, again, all the like main characters are women. There's a big sleepover where it's all these princesses from around the world, and these royal guards are all men, and they just have to you can just see they're like, I live in a woman's world and I must do what women say.
Yes. I would
It's so
love the
good.
sleepover scene is my favorite scene in the entire movie. So iconic, of Julie Andrews going down the slide, mattress surfing. It's always been my favorite scene. And then after that, we get to hear Julie Andrews sing, which makes me cry every single time. Raven Simone is there. Go her, that's cool. Um,
I was like, whoa, this is like a huge, like, why is this here? Like they just like throw it in, and I know it's for the kids, but like it doesn't really make a lot of sense, and I know it's just like for fun and stuff. But I felt like it was a weird, like it really took me out of the rest of the story, because I understand it's like her bridal shower and stuff like that, and it's a movie made for kids. But I feel like it was kind of fan service for fans of the first movie, so that they could see, Julie Andrews, mattress surfing and singing and stuff. But like the whole singing part, I was like, why is this happening? Like, who's asked for this? So, I mean, not that, I'm not trying to belittle your experience of this movie, because it is a fun scene, but as an adult watching it, I felt like it felt very different from the rest of the movie. And I don't know, I was just kind of taken out of it. Sorry. I'm sorry.
You have a rebuttal, Julia, to that.
um, my rebuttal to that is because it's a sleepover, because it's fun.
No, I get it.
Not all movies have to be deep. They can just be fun.
No, I just felt like this
it doesn't have to be deep. It's just fun. And
no, I agree. And I think that that's the point of this movie. It's just fun.
I feel like the puppet master making you guys fight each other about it.
No, and I respect Julia's opinions, and she's right. It's just fun. Why have a reason? But I didn't say it's the beginning, but I'm an English major, and so like everything I see or read, I'm like, what's the reason for this? What's the deeper meaning? And I can't turn it off.
It's ridiculous, and I love it. I love a good, just fun. It's just a fun, lighthearted movie, and that's really why I love it so much. It's just so fun.
Brigitte and Brigida and all of their like shenanigans and stuff. So
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
That made me laugh out loud.
Yeah,
that's a laugh for the parents.
Makes me laugh out loud, because she just turns to them and goes, Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, come with me. And it just was like, yeah, because this whole movie like basically takes place in the palace, except for the parade scene. Like they're pretty much just on the grounds in Genovia, and I guess when they go to the church and stuff. And I was sitting there being like, oh, this is what everyone thinks a female Hamlet would be like, because she's nice and it's all about her getting married. And so she's not killing people. She's just hanging out.
That's a version of the Princess Diaries I would like to see.
Yeah. Can she play Hamlet, but like as Mia Thermopolis? Because that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And she just like has to, like, Lily is definitely Horatio.
Oh,
it'd be great.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
They have a Panera, they have a Bread Co.
You have a Panera, and it really was hilarious because it's not obvious. And I think it's definitely like a product placement, but it confirms that there is Panera in Genovia, and I think it's hilarious. I wonder if they have like pear themed items that are specific to the country. This umbrella over something that looks like a cute European cafe, but it says Panera Bread on it, which is hilarious. And I'm so glad it was there, and it really made me laugh.
Why is there a Bread Co here?
For those of you who don't know, I don't know who's watching this and where, we three are all from St. Louis. And so we call Panera Bread Bread Co. because to us it is St. Louis Bread Company. And you're wrong. That's all.
Thank you.
But I don't know, if Genovia says it's Panera Bread, then, you know,
Genovia is not a real
Andrew.
country, Sarah.
What? Wait, are you kidding me? I thought this was a biopic.
Like you said, it's The Crown.
Yeah, it's The Crown, but
It's just like The Crown.
Can we please have it? Anyway.
Oh, that reminds me of another iconic scene, the wardrobe scene when she walks into the walk-in wardrobe the first time and just sees all the clothes and the crowns and like the sunglasses. Another classic. And then they have Fat Louie the cat, and he's messing around with the remote. The cat is the real star of the movies.
Fat Louie is the main character. He's the main character.
He absolutely is.
But that song that's playing during that scene is so bad. It's like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah. It's like, that's the song. It's so funny because it takes you out of them like, oh, this is so cool, this closet, and it's just like bah, 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 cool. Like
I love how anytime I have one good thing to say about this movie, Sarah has to bring it down.
I'm sorry, like, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
it was funny.
Bad.
It was funny. No, okay, I'll stop. I'm sorry. I'll stop contributing. Do we want to talk about Clarice and Joe real quick?
Oh, yes, please.
Yes, absolutely.
So a major thing that we've forgotten this whole time is Clarice and Joe. Joe is one of the security people. He's like the chauffeur for the Royals, and so he works for Clarice and Mia, and he's in both movies.
You know, Joe continues to play the music, and then they like dance, and it's like that, like you can tell that they have feelings for each other. And then the second one is kind of confirmed that they actually have a relationship, because Joe's like, hey, are you gonna go public about a relationship? And Clarice is like, no. It's kind of like my duty as queen, and even afterwards, like, to kind of like keep a private life or whatever. And so she basically kind of denies him, but then at the end they get married, so it all works out. Because when Mia chooses her own happiness over you know, duty, because she chooses responsibility and duty for like the entirety of the movie, and she finally decides, you know what, this is the one thing I'm not going to budge on. I'm not going to get married. I want to be happy in my position. When Mia has the courage to make that choice, Clarice has the courage to be like, you know what, I also don't care if the country knows that I'm with Joe, because we're in love, and they get married.
Yeah, they're so cute. And in the first movie, this is the first time I've noticed it this last watch. So they do, the Genovian dance. And so they're in the Genovian consulate in San Francisco, in like the ballroom. And before they start dancing, when Joe is still trying to teach Mia, and he's kind of like, he doesn't make jokes, I would say, but he says things very dryly and they could be taken as funny. And so he kind of makes a comment that's kind of funny. And then you watch Clarice bite her lip slightly. And then I'm not kidding.
I noticed that.
And I was like, oh my God.
I think we all need a man like Joe. I think Joe is the perfect man, and no one will ever be able to hit that high. I think he
isn't dead. We were worried for a second, but he's not dead, guys.
We didn't talk much about Andrew.
Who cares about Andrew?
But I was gonna make a joke just saying that I feel like me personally, Michael was my type when I was 12 years old, and Andrew is my type now that I'm 20. We
Yeah.
don't have to put that in, but I thought that was funny.
I'll put it in. Care. I didn't write like quotes for this movie as much as I did for the first one. The only quote that I wrote down is "The prettiest girl is riding in the Stang." That's a funny line.
There are a few lines I wrote down from this movie that aren't super iconic, but I'd never noticed them before and kind of made me laugh. I mean, "A queen is never late, everyone else is simply early" is probably the most iconic line that I took away as a kid from this movie. But some other quotes I have is, "Someone might try to take that crown away from you. Someone like me." Like, why does the Viscount say that? It's so funny because he goes, "Why would someone might try to take that from you?" She's like, "Well, I hope not. Bye." And he goes, "Someone like me." It was just so on the nose of like, hey kids, if you didn't realize this is the villain yet, you do now. And it was just so funny.
But yeah, do you all have any final thoughts about these movies?
I wouldn't say either of them are masterpieces, and both of them have their pros and cons, and they're just fun movies to watch, comfort movies, like I said before. And I think the world of cinema is better that they exist.
Yes, I agree.
I am eagerly awaiting to see what happens with Princess Diaries 3.
Well, thank you guys so much for doing this little film review of the Princess Diaries double feature. And thank you to everyone watching the episode.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is fun. Please, in the comments, put which one is your favorite and why.
Thank you. Yeah. And are you team Andrew, Michael, or Nicholas?
Or Josh.
No one's team Josh.
I'm team Joe. I'm team Joe.
He's looking in. I'm gonna start over.
But that scene is so
Oh,
funny to me.
ass.
Oh, ass.
I'm gonna cut this out. But like, yikes.
One in the car when she's laying in the rain and she's like, "Is this my punishment for driving without a licensed driver in the front seat?" And
star,
put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day.
Whenever we do these, I usually put in like an outro bit where it's like
yeah,
bloopers, and so we can throw some of those in there.